All right, so before we get into leading by, well, I guess we can talk about leading by example. I'm getting all fired up here. Leading by example, I've heard some things, some legendary things about you that I don't know if are completely true, but I heard when you first got involved in the opportunity that you're with and you've been with for the last 24 years, that you made like a million phone calls. I mean, every day you were just pounding it. You were hitting it hard. You were leading by example. You're doing things other people weren't willing to do. Long before it was fashionable in your company or anywhere. How did you launch? How did you really get it going? What did it take?
Well, you know, my attitude is in life, watch the feet, not the lips. Distributors do what you do, not what you tell them to do. In other words, would you follow you?
Yeah.
You know, your work ethic, your discipline, your consistency, your daily method of operation. You know, are you the type of person that you would follow? Is a good place to start. So my attitude was that I was going to, once I signed up, I'm going to be the best distributor in my organization. I'm going to lead by example, you know, and not only tell people how to do the business, but show them, they'll try it, and they'll do it. So going out there and leading, not pushing. It's easier to lead than push. And setting the example, leading by example. So I got very clear in the beginning in our business that we get paid, what you get paid for is sharing the story, telling the story, sharing your product story, sharing your opportunity story, sharing your story. And, you know, the company ships and manufactures and collects and accounts, and they've got their role. But what you and I, what this is all about is about relationships. This is relationship marketing, you know, multi-level network marketing, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, long-term relationships equal long-term success. So I got very clear also in the beginning that there's this thing called safety in numbers. There's this thing called the law of averages. And I understood in the very beginning that if you talk to some people, you can make some money. If you talk to lots of people, you got an opportunity to become very wealthy.
Yeah.
So instead of just going out there and setting some low standards, I said, well, you know, if it's 2 a day, what if I talk to 20 a day or beyond that?
Yeah.
You know, anything you do consistently over and over again, you get better and better at doing it.
Yeah.
Remember Jim Rohn sharing with me, he said, Jeff, a few simple disciplines done consistently over and over again equal multiple rewards.
Right.
And an example might be, let's say you talk to 3 people a day, and you do that for a few days, nothing much happens. But you do that for a few weeks, and then a few months, and then by the end of the year, you've talked to what, almost 1,000 people?
Right.
Do you think you'd get better at telling the story?
Absolutely.
Do you think you'd start to come from more of a position of strength and have that voice of authority and that congruency and that conviction and that passion? Absolutely. Do you think that maybe you'd have some momentum in your business? And all of a sudden, maybe some of the people on your team would start doing the same thing.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you've got so much momentum going from doing it over and over again consistently that maybe sometimes the results you see this month is not a result of what you did this month. It's what you did last month.
Right.
Or this year's from last year.
Right.
Because you got to have that consistency, that discipline, you know, that work ethic. You know, consistency of effort, work ethic, and attitude.
Yeah.
And so I understood that, you know, there was a bit of a numbers game. I also understood, Eric, and this one might be priceless for people out there, you get paid just as much for a no as you do a yes.
Yeah.
And in the very beginning, I got clear on how do you overcome this fear of rejection? You know, where somebody tells you no, your product's no good, or your business, or you're no good. You know, how do you get past that? And sometimes, you know, I ask people, do you have any negative family members out there?
Yeah.
You know, if you can get past your family, you can become a millionaire in this business. My mom's still waiting for me to get a real job. But, you know, you're going to have some situations where people are going to poo-poo it.
Right.
You know, they're going to be negative. Well, it doesn't matter whether you buy their story. whether they buy your story, what matters is whether you buy their story.
Right.
So let me just give you one example, one nugget here that maybe could help some people out there, that could serve the people that are listening. You get paid just as much for a no as you do a yes. What you really get paid for is telling the story. Mm-hmm. The sale is a result. The cause and what you really get paid for is consistently sharing that story. So let's take an example. Let's say you talk to 10 people a day. And out of the 10 a day, you get one yes. Well, that feels really good. How do you manage the other 9? The other 9 no's? Well, instead of dividing the sale by 1, what if you divided it by 10? And let's say on the one sale you made $50. And so now, how do you manage the other 9 no's? Well, instead of dividing it by 1, which is 50, for every person you talk to, it was worth what?
$5.
$5.
Yeah.
So let's say you're on the phone with someone, and you're sharing your product, or you're sharing your opportunity, and they say, that product's no good, that business is no good, and you're no good, and you guys should all be thrown in jail. I'd say, thank you very much, I got your $5 anyway, and hang up the phone. Right? Because it doesn't matter.
Right.
I understand that there's this thing called safety in numbers. There's the law of averages.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a baseball player goes up to the plate, and he gets paid for swinging the bat, right? And if you hit the ball, you strike out 7 out of 10 times. You hit the ball 3 out of 10 times. Back 300. They pay you $4 million a year. You don't have to bat 1,000%. So that just being able to get past that fear of rejection. I always tell people this: say less to more. People, don't worry about the ones you can't sell. Worry about the ones you can't see.